Hello everybody, welcome to Pixel Talk. I am Corbin Stuckey, and tonight I am here to give you my review on the Attack on Titan Part 1 movie. Attack on Titan Part 1 is the first part of the Attack on Titan live-action movie interpretation, which is based on the anime about the city people trying to survive these giant beings known as Titans in this three-walled city. And one day, after a colossal titan breaks in a hole through one of the walls and titans start pouring in, a boy named Eren decides to become a soldier with his friends and take on the Titans. Alright guys, so I actually just started watching Attack on Titan because my friend Stephen Van Ossenbridge, he came into town from Indiana and he got me hooked on the show. I've actually been watching a lot of anime as of late. And I actually like Attack on Titan. It's a very dark show, it's very gritty, and I just love a lot of the characters in the show. And I was actually very curious whether or not they were going to make a good movie adaptation based on this anime, because in the past, we've had a lot of bad movie adaptations to animes. Dragon Ball Evolution, The Last Airbender. The only good interpretation of an anime that we've had so far is Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. But I figured since that the Japanese were in charge of the film, that's right, this is actually a Japanese film, that they would make a good interpretation of what they've made. And I'm sorry to say that is beyond the case. This is actually a really bad interpretation of the show. Alright, so let's get into why I just did not like this movie. I think people who go into this movie who haven't watched the show will enjoy it to an extent, but being as I just started watching the show, and from what I know so far and what I was watching on the screen, just did not match up. And I think I can agree that a lot of fans who go to see Attack on Titan Part 1 are going to be very disappointed. There's just a lot of things in this movie that just don't match up with the show. And I understand that it's just a movie adaptation of the show and they have to take some parts out. They gotta make some things different for it to make sense as a movie. But sometimes I questioned whether or not it was necessary. Like, even in the first minutes of the film, you hear Armin say, "Eren got fired?" And I'm just like, Eren got fired? Eren's supposed to be a kid. Wait, Armin, why aren't you a kid? That's right, they actually used teenagers to play the younger interpretations of Armin and Eren and Mikasa. They pulled a Percy Jackson on us! I mean, it's not like a huge change that I minded, but like, you know, it was very noticeable. But it was very noticeable if you've watched the show. And another thing that I have to say, and guys, you're gonna think that I'm racist, but I'm really not racist. This is just a problem that I had with the film. Well, not even like for the film, but this opinion that's been going around. So for the past couple of years, I have read discussions where people think that like, because the Japanese made an anime, they should make the movie to that anime, because of like, you know, the failure of Dragon Ball Evolution. And to an extent, I actually agree with that. If you made an anime in a certain country, yeah, I totally would see why that country would want to make a movie, or why fans would want that country to make their own work into a movie. But because people think that is like a reason why a film could be good, that's not true. And I feel as though this film is perfect proof of that. So because this film was made in Japan, a majority of the actors and actresses are Japanese. And I'm really sorry that I keep going back to the show, because like, you know, I should just be like reviewing the movie as the movie itself, but just going back to the show, the only Oriental person in the show is Mikasa. And that is one of the most special reasons why we like her as a character, because she has like this really interesting background and it really affects her in the show. But she's just a normal Japanese girl in this movie, and it like takes away what made her special and why she's so cool. And another problem that I have with everybody being Japanese, I just want to say again, I am not racist. This is just a problem I had specifically. The actors who portrayed Eren and Armin, like, it was so hard for me to tell like who was who sometimes. Like, these actors look exactly the same, and when they were on the screen, I was like, okay, is this Armin? Is this Eren? Like, it was really hard for me to tell sometimes, and it shouldn't have been hard for me to tell whatsoever, because Armin has blonde hair in the show. And truly, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't think the characters were portrayed very well in this movie. Going back to Mikasa, Mikasa's supposed to be like this really awesome badass, and She's just like a regular girl in the beginning of the film. And Armin, he's supposed to be a dweeb or a dork, and he's supposed to be like, kind of shy and everything, and he just seems like really joyous. Oh, and God, don't even get me started on Eren. So in the show, Eren actually wants to go out into the world and fight Titans because he sees this as something that he has to do. In the beginning of the movie, he doesn't even believe that Titans exist. What the actual hell? They just did not follow a lot of the source material in this film. They followed a little bit of the story, especially at the ending of the film, but for the most part, it's just not there. Especially Eren's background story. In the first episode of the show, you see why Eren is the way he is throughout this whole show, and it's not there. They took away so much, and I was just like, I can't believe they took that out. Okay, let's stop fanboying for a second. Let's just go back to the movie itself. So let's talk about the CGI, I guess, or the effects of the movie. It's gonna be really hard for me to review the effects of a Japanese film because I have no idea how films are in Japan. This is I rarely watch Japanese films. What actually happened this week, I've been watching Death Note on Netflix, and I heard that there was a Death Note movie, and I looked it up on YouTube, a clip from the Death Note movie, and I almost thought that what I was watching was a fan-made film. I did not think that this was from the actual movie. So it made me question what are Japanese films like? But I gotta say, the Attack on Titan effects were better than what I saw in the Death Note clip. However, the effects are still very, very questionable. If I were to judge it as an American film, I would say that it's okay, but at the same time, it is kind of bad. You could just tell that a majority of the shots in this film, with the Titans or the little amount of people who were using maneuver gear, were all just green screen. It was just so noticeable. The majority of the shots were green screen, and I could just tell from the get-go. And like I said, and this is really weird considering we're talking about Attack on Titan, there is a small amount of people who are using maneuver gear in this film. I counted maybe 3 or 4 people using maneuver gear. And everybody in this film had maneuver gear, and they just chose not to use it. A majority of the people in this film are essentially foot soldiers. And only 3 or 4 people are using the maneuver gear. And it's you do something. Seriously. Guys, I honestly don't know what to think about some of the effects in this film. I saw a car commercial on YouTube a couple years ago that it was Attack on Titan themed, and that's kind of what I've been picturing an Attack on Titan movie would be before I saw a glimpse of this. And I was always wondering how they were gonna do that. Were they gonna make it like the car commercial? Because the car commercial actually looked really, really cool. But it's all green screen. It's just naked people in front of a green screen, and it's almost silly and laughable sometimes. And another problem that I had with this film was that in the middle of the film where the actual action takes place, it's really dark most of the time in this film. I'm not talking about the tone of the movie dark. It's dark. It's literally dark, and it's really hard to watch, especially when it's not only dark, but a majority of the film is also shaky cam. Seriously, when there was a fire or an explosion, I was oh my God, lighting! And this is a funny story. Okay, so when there aren't Titans on the screen, when there's nothing happening, which is somewhat a majority of the film, it's all boring. When people are talking to each other, there's just no chemistry really, and there's not really a lot of humanity in the film whatsoever. And true story, I kid you not, it was so boring that a guy behind me was snoring. A guy behind me was snoring at a movie theater. I was oh my God, this has never happened. Somebody's falling asleep during a film, and it's Attack on Titan. So, yeah, guys, I was just, oh my God. I think a lot of the fans are gonna agree with me if they are fans of the show who went into this. This was a disappointment. And to think that this is part 1 really makes me question whether or not I want to watch part 2. Honestly, guys, just watch the show. I wouldn't even bother with this. Just watch the show. So yeah, guys, that was my review on Attack on Titan part 1. Comment down below what you thought of this movie if you saw it. like the video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.